Hello, twisted humans.
Do you find yourself wanting to know more about the latest murder, conspiracy, cult, or haunting?
Then this is the podcast for you. I'm Alicia.
And I'm Sierra, and this is Twisted and Uncorked. Hello, and welcome to episode 89 of this podcast. I am still sick. My voice sounds funny, but that's okay. I can speak now. That's good enough.
It is. Arguably, It is. Yeah. And I just fought the urge to say feeling fine because...
Again, every time we say something with a 9.
I'm sorry, guys.
It's not okay.
No one signed your petition, okay, Sierra?
I signed it like 4 times.
We love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in again.
I have a cult story for you today. And I'm super excited to tell you about it. But first,
Sierra's only had happy cults, so I'm scared. No.
But first, do you have a fun fact for me?
I do, and my fun fact kind of relates to today's sangria recipe, which I know is strange because Sierra is usually the one that picks our sangria recipes, but because she was sick this week and last week, I've chosen our wine and sangria, and I'm just on a solo party over here.
Mm-hmm.
My fun fact is about lavender. So, I have a few fun facts for you. There are 100 varieties of lavender, which, like, what?
Yeah, that's a lot.
It comes in a variety of colors, such as orange, yellow, red, and purple, and blue.
Who has ever seen orange, yellow, or red lavender? I want to know.
Right? Like, I need to see these things. The name lavender originates from the Latin verb lavere, which means to wash. And it holds true in ways that we use lavender today. We usually use it in our baths and our oils and our whichever. And lavender is also a happy bee plant, so it promotes pollination. So if you're able to, in a situation, plant lavender, it's good for the bee population, which is hurting right now. So do that if you are able to. I have tried to grow lavender on my balcony, and it's been okay. It's not branched out the way the lavender does, because lavender is technically a weed, so it will just go wherever the pollination takes it. But I only have a few hours of sun in the morning, and it needs a little bit more light than that. So my lavender plant is very, very small. But I was able to use my lavender in our sangria for this week. So I'm excited to talk about that. But before that, Sierra, what is your fun fact?
My fun fact is coming very late for what it is. But you know what? It's fine, because I'm going to talk about it anyway. It is a guide on how to pair wine with Halloween candy.
Yes.
And by the time you're listening to this, it's like Thanksgiving almost, but
you have
there's plenty of Halloween candy left.
Everyone does, let's face it.
So, M&M's pair well with a Pinot Noir or a Gamay? Gamay. Okay. You're going to have to help me with these French words.
Okay.
Hershey's Special Dark pairs well with Zinfandel.
Oh, hell yeah.
Snickers pairs well with Sauternes.
That's a varietal I've never heard of.
Really? It's a white.
Dad, if you're listening, tell me more.
Candy corn, the best candy, pairs well with Prosecco or sparkling Riesling. Reese's Peanut Butter Cups pairs well with Oloroso Sherry.
Yes.
Or Amontillado.
Nailed it.
Okay. And Starbursts pair well with off-dry Riesling.
Oh, okay. I've never tried an off-dry Riesling, but now it's on my list to try. We drink wine and oftentimes eat candy, and also sangria. So
that was a ridiculous segue. But go ahead.
We've,
Go ahead.
we've had worse segues, okay? I
That was
edit
why
them.
here is sangria.
That would have been better. So I have a blueberry lavender sangria for you today. I'm not drinking it physically right now, but I had it last night and 10 out of 10 would recommend. So it involved the same lavender simple syrup that Sierra and I made together when we were on our trip together, which was fresh lavender, a little bit of sugar, and water, and you boil it until life does what it needs to. And
No,
then,
that is not how you do it.
well, you made it. Sorry, tell the people.
No. I mean, yes, that's what you do, but I don't know if the people know what life does what it needs to means, okay?
You boil it.
Water, sugar, you boil the sugar until the water becomes thick like a syrup and has the lavender infused in it.
Life does what it needs to, and then you
Oh my
make
gosh.
room in your freezer for said ice cube trays. In our case, but in this case, you can just put it into whatever receptacle you would use for a simple syrup. I had a little mason jar that I put mine in, and you can spoon it out as you need to. So, and then you also take blueberries, soda water, and a rosé. So last week we were drinking Bodacious Rosé, so that's what I chose to put in mine, and it was fucking delicious.
Yum.
I'm just saying, super simple, super refreshing. Like 4 ingredients, I'll take it.
As soon as this cold leaves me, I am making that, except not with Bodacious because I can't find it.
But like a rosé of sorts, it's so good.
Nice.
It does not hold the same candle to the midnight margaritas that we made, which were fucking phenomenal, but definitely up there. So if you guys grow lavender, which you should after my fun fact, definitely check it out.
We did the fun facts, we did the wines. Now we have to do the promo. And today you will be hearing that from Tipsy Ghost Podcast. All right, so today, as I said, we are talking cults. In today's cult episode, I am covering the Koreshan Unity, or Koreshanity, not to be confused with David Koresh's Branch Davidians. The Koreshan Unity was founded and run by a man named Cyrus Teed, and the Hebrew translation of the word Cyrus... Why can't I speak? Sorry. And the Hebrew translation of the word Cyrus is Koresh. So the cult was named after himself. Big surprise there.
Okay.
But let's start at the beginning.
Behavior.
Oh, yeah. So, Cyrus Teed was born on October 18th, 1839 in New York. When he was only 11, he left school to start working to bring home money for his big family. Once he was old enough to go off to a career, and after spending a bit of time in the military, his parents expected him to follow in the family footsteps and work in the church. But Cyrus wanted to go the medical route instead. And not just normal medicine. This was all during the spiritual age. So he was practicing eclectic and botanical medicine, like witchy, woo-woo, holistic, hippie stuff. But also, this is the 1800s, so awful stuff that no one realized was awful yet, like sticking leeches on your body to get rid of toxic blood or whatever.
Yeah.
Being involved in medicine of any kind during this time made Cyrus, and any doctor really, also interested in strange human experimentation. One of the big experiments that people were doing at the time was electric shock. And Cyrus experimented with electricity a lot. During one of his experiments with electricity, he says he had a lot on his mind and was speaking out in his mind, asking for a sign from God or the universe. And then he electrocuted himself and passed out. And in this state of he just electrocuted himself and passed out and almost died, he says he met a godlike figure who told him that he was the Messiah.
Okay.
She, the Divine Mother, allegedly said that she had reincarnated him over and over again, letting him go through different phases and becoming stronger and better until now, when she knew he was finally ready to take on this mission and redeem humanity.
Okay. No
Cyrus.
pressure.
Cyrus's views were pretty reasonable on the surface, which worries me that any one of us could accidentally join a cult in the near future. It was the late 1800s, and what he wanted was basically a little community where everyone was taking care of each other.
Sounds great in hindsight, but I have a feeling you're going to make it creepy.
This was his views. Number 1, community. No money, no capitalism, everyone working together, growing their own food, trading off jobs, basically a little hippie commune.
Okay.
A cult I could be talked into joining if I didn't have Jesse.
I was going to say, I have a feeling that we would be okay in that scenario.
Number 2, he was
So
a
far.
strong supporter in equality among sexes. God, he told people, was actually a hybrid male-female.
Love
She
that.
was the mother and the father. Feminism was a new and booming movement at the time in the late 1800s, because this is when women really started, going to college and pissing off their fathers. And Teed believed that women should have all the same rights as men, and that men should have to help with household duties too.
Snaps all around.
Right?
Sir.
And he wasn't even a creep about it, because number 3, he also believed everyone should be celibate, which is actually where I hop off of this cult, but he believed.
I think that's where
No
most
thanks.
people hop off this cult. Yeah.
But he believed something about how ejaculating or sharing your love is what is causing people to die, and holding it in, projecting all of your thoughts of love onto the Messiah will make you live forever.
No. I'm sorry. No.
He also talked about how women were slaves to men in marriage and in the bed. So,
Also no.
I mean, they were, though, at the time.
Yeah, they were, but I'm
So-
just saying, I'm not
right.
okay with it.
Oh, no. He's saying that you are unless you're celibate. So stop fucking these dudes.
Yeah, but I would
Be
like
celibate.
to still keep fucking, but not be celibate and not be a slave. Where is that middle ground? Tell me more.
Yeah. A lot of women appreciated Cyrus's views on life, and so many women followed him into this cult. Some men also joined, but he mostly had just women who decided to finally divorce their husbands and join him.
It's like they're losing their voices now? Oh my
I
god.
am.
Yeah, no, just Sierra right now.
Yeah. Joining him meant that these women would have help from other women in the group for money and chores and everything. But his beliefs were not unflawed. Cyrus believed that the earth was hollow. This is really difficult to explain, but basically...
it takes flat earthing to a new and confusing level.
Basically, he thought the globe, as we look at it, was inside out. We walk on the edges, the map, but on the inside, and in the very center of the globe was space. And so, with your telescope, you could see the other side of the world through space. People in America could get a telescope that was good enough where you see space, and then you keep looking, and then you see China.
Okay.
It's really
Right.
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not
I hope
seeing
you're
how that
picturing.
makes sense, but I understand.
I do have a
Instead
photo,
of going through
actually.
the center of the earth, you're
Can I share
looking...
screen?
Yeah, I think so.
So this...
Okay.
Yeah, this is space. This is Earth. We're standing right here. We can look through space and see over here.
Okay. I'm a little not in agreement, but I'm not a scientist,
little?
so I'm nice. I'm being my Canadian self over here, okay? I don't get it.
So
But tell me more.
clearly he wasn't the smartest cult leader. But
I
he
mean,
was.
we've had worse. Arguably, we've had worse.
This guy is preaching celibacy. How do you keep a population going if no one's having sex?
Yeah.
That's my thing. Like, usually followers are like, we need to have, or cult leaders are like, we need to have so many babies so they can all love me.
And you all
He's
need
like,
to be their
don't
mother.
fuck. Nuh-uh. Okay. So.
No fucking for you.
He was very charismatic and a great talker, though. He actually convinced an early on original flat earther that the world was round. But again, now it's like inside out, so.
So now he's doing God's work, but not really.
Anyway,
I say
another
God's
thing-
work in the sense of the impossible, not that that's...
Right.
Yeah.
Another thing that Cyrus Teed is a narcissist, obviously. But even way back when the word narcissist wasn't even invented yet, Cyrus Teed's traits were written down, and when you compare them to the term narcissist today, he is basically the definition of narcissist.
I love that. Like, for research.
Right. Back then, they just said that he had a god complex, but it wasn't that he thought he was a god.
Yeah,
it was just literally everything revolved around him. Like when people were like, "Hey, buddy, the world is actually not hollow, and we know this because, this or this." He's like, I didn't hear you. Anyway, the world's hollow. Like, I'm going to pretend that never happened,
hollow.
and so no one
weird.
else knows it. Yeah.
If the world was
ridiculous.
hollow, that would be very confusing for a lot of other phenomena that we experience, so.
Well, it's the 1800s, whatever.
Oh, yeah, true. It wasn't the 60s, it was the 1800s.
Yeah. So, now that we know the beliefs of his cult, I have to give a little warning of information. Because Cyrus was a narcissist and a nice guy in that he wasn't raping or sexually manipulating women in the 1800s, and he was actually a beacon of help and support for women living in unhappy relationships, men hated this guy.
Oh, okay.
They despised him.
Why am I not surprised?
There is actually very little information about his cult practices in the sources online, but there are very many articles from way back then that are basically fluff pieces.
Okay.
Men were trying to drag him in order to get the law or anyone to get their wives to come home because their wives were their property and they wanted them back. Didn't care what the wives wanted.
Fuck all the way off.
But between that time and now, what has happened is I don't know what to call her. She's an author, I know that much. A woman named Lynn Milner. I believe she's a historic person. You know what I mean? Like a
Lynn
researcher,
Milner?
a historic researcher. Yeah.
Some sort of... Okay.
She has studied the shit out of Cyrus Teed. She went back into his history, read through all the journals she could find of anyone who was ever a part of the Koreshan Unity, including Cyrus Teed, all of his 200 plus members, and she wrote a book called The Allure of Immortality. And in that book,
read the book?
Mm-hmm, I did.
Okay.
And in that book, she talks about the facts, the lies, and both sides of some of the things we don't know if they're true or not. But mostly, Cyrus was not a monster, just an asshole who thought he was the Messiah. So, if you want to, I say that because sometimes if you're researching, you'll find an article that's like, oh my god, he has this crazy sex cult. But it was just a rumor for men to scare women from being around him, when in reality, Lynn Milner went through all of the journals of all of the women there, and he did not have sex with anyone to any of their knowledge.
Yeah, he was being celibate.
He was celibate, yeah. So, if you want very detailed information on this man's entire fucking life, read that book. In all honesty, it was not my favorite book. It's kind of super boring. He didn't have that interesting of a life. But that's the fact of it. So
And
it's
she
a
means
historical
his
book.
entire fucking life, as in all of his life, not his life fucking, because
Oh,
that's not what he was doing. But
Anyway, in the cult, there were 3 membership levels, quote unquote levels.
there are
At the
always
top,
levels.
right. Well, these levels are, you'll hear.
Okay.
At the top was the preeminent unity. These were the people who were unmarried and celibate. Oh, but I thought all of the cult was. No, just these people up top, because everybody else was like, why the fuck would we do that? Below this group was called the Department of Equitable Administration. They were allowed to be married, but they were only allowed to have sex out of necessity for repopulation.
Okay.
In all honesty, it seemed more like this group was the group where the members were already married, and Cyrus told everybody, hey, don't have sex. But then these people kept turning up pregnant, and instead of him kicking them out of the group, he was like, oh, they're just repopulating, it's okay. I know I said not to have sex, but like, whatever, it's fine.
But we gotta repopulate, because...
Well, no, he didn't want them to. They were not repopulating. They just weren't listening to him, and he didn't want to tell people they're not listening. So he was like, oh, they're just repopulating.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're not defying me. They're just doing what I said was okay.
Right. They're definitely defying, but he's like, oh, but that one's fine. No big deal.
Yeah, they're okay.
He was a very, what's the word that I'm looking for? Meek narcissist. He wasn't about to start a fight about it, okay?
Okay, he did
like,
not
I want you to follow me, but if you don't want to, it's fine. At the very bottom, or the outermost level, were the patrons of equation.
Okay.
They did not believe that Cyrus was a messiah, and they probably did not even believe that the earth was hollow. But they did want a community of people helping to take care of each other, and Cyrus did not shun them for not believing in him. He let them hang out and get married and live amongst them, even with different beliefs. So, like, they're not even in the cult, okay? They just want food.
Like, unofficial cult members. All right.
Yeah, it's hilarious that he was such a narcissist, but, like, I'm telling you, he really didn't even see the flaws. He was like, look at my hundreds of followers. And half of them are like, actually, we don't believe anything you're saying. And he's like, I'm so happy all of you are here for me. They're like, okay, whatever, dude. Like, the fuck?
He's just like happy-go-lucky, like, yes.
Yeah, all these people are here to worship me. And they're like, we just came for the food.
And the community and the fucking that you don't promote.
Yeah. There were 2 main cities where people of the Koreshan Unity lived. So he's from New York. He started his movement in 1870 just by telling people about this message all over New York. And he had just a few followers in his home state, but his movement really took off when he went to a convocation of mental healers in Chicago.
Okay.
The others in the quote-unquote Mental Science National Association were so enthralled by his ideas that they made him the president of the association. Crazy to me. They probably thought, this guy needs mental health. Let's study him. One of his early beliefs...
Everything is fine.
Yeah. One of his early beliefs in Chicago was that he thought people, or the human body itself, could heal itself with just reading and praying and manifesting and just believing in getting better. But this belief of his kind of backfired when the husband of one of his followers died of pneumonia.
I was going to say, that only goes so far.
Yeah. Cyrus, calling himself a doctor and a messiah, was quote-unquote taking care of Fletcher Benedict throughout his illness. Fletcher did not believe in these teachings, even though his wife did, and when he died, Actual doctors said that his pneumonia was very run-of-the-mill, and he very much could have been treated and healed. But Cyrus, of course, is like, well, he didn't believe he was being healed. That's why he wasn't healed. But this is when it became pretty obvious and noticeable that Cyrus was not at all a licensed doctor. But again, he never shunned anyone for not being on board with his beliefs. So if the people didn't specifically come to him about medical needs anymore, which they did not, it was no big deal to him. He's just like, I'm still the Messiah, though. Not a doctor, still the Messiah.
I always think of that Brooklyn Nine-Nine, like, not a doctor.
Yeah.
That was him. Not a doctor, still a Messiah. Everything's fine.
And of course, people still loved his progressive views on equality. So, with about 160 followers in Chicago, Teed bought up some property and allowed his followers to move in. This place became known as Beth Ofra. But, unfortunately, he had more people who hated him than who followed him. Like I said, men were very threatened by the Koreshan Unity because it was causing their wives to feel empowered enough to leave. There were many threats.
To have a sense of your own opinion.
Exactly. There were many threats against Cyrus's life, and at one point there was even a bomb found outside of his house.
Stop it.
They were pissed.
Really? Oh, shit.
They were pissed. Cyrus had to look outside of the Chicago area to find followers because the men in town were spreading rumors about a creepy sex cult he was running. And in looking for more followers, he also found land that he was interested in Florida. This land, in the swamplands of the Estero Bay, was going to be their new Jerusalem. And Cyrus envisioned that it would house a population of 10 million as he spread his message to people from all over the world.
Sure.
Yeah. The land that Cyrus purchased was actually purchased in a really weird and shady way, and there's like this whole family drama thing. A family had lived there before, and Cyrus, with his smooth talking, sort of like swindled this single dad into selling the property for really cheap, and then convinced him to join the cult and start working on the property for him. I didn't get too much into that story because it was a whole other family story, but it is in the book. It was a very interesting part of that book.
Okay.
So the 320 acres of land that he bought, by the way,
just a small amount of land.
I'm pretty sure he said it was like $200.
Stop
it's
it.
ridiculous. Cyrus
we're
had come up
with the 1800s, so
right, but he came up with $4,000 that he was going to use to buy a hotel that he was going to have everybody live in Florida, and instead he got this 320 acres for $200. $4,200.
Sierra, we're doing real estate wrong, is what I'm gathering here.
You gotta be a cult-leading narcissist. The 320 acres of land started as just a bug-infested swamp.
Gross.
But eventually, it had gardens that lined the streets, a bakery, tennis, baseball, boating, arts and crafts, a printing shop for the community, newspaper, like a newspaper shop and a weekly ran newspaper, and even a power plant with electricity for the community. And this is in the late 1800s.
All right, that's pretty forward thinking.
Yeah. So this is what he envisioned it to look like.
Okay.
But this is what it actually looked like. There's the bakery. It's not bad. I mean, it's the 1800s.
Not bad. Yeah.
Electricity.
It looks better than I would imagine for the 1800s.
It's got a piano and a hall. This is what the outside looked like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not a bad looking place.
Like a little, nookie hotel that I would stay in.
Yeah, like a little bed and breakfast.
A little oasis, yeah.
Yeah. It's got some stuff.
I respect it. It looks like a little beach bungalow. It's cute.
Yeah.
It's cute as shit.
So everything outside of the weird land drama, was going great for a pretty good time.
Okay.
Until the Floridians were not happy about the cult in their town. The Koreshan Unity, in spreading their message, decided that they wanted to run for government positions in the area and spread their message that way.
Okay.
They called themselves a progressive liberal party, and they gained the support of, obviously, all the Koreshans, the socialists, the Republicans, and even the dissatisfied Democrats. So, like, they were about to win some shit.
I was gonna say, they're making some shit happen.
Yeah, but the local Democrats who were currently in power in the area at the time had a huge problem with this, and they were prepared to fight about it.
Okay.
Thankfully for them, the movement died out with Cyrus in 1908. On October 13th, 1906, Cyrus attempted to break up a fight in Fort Myers, Florida, instigated by some of those Democrats that were unhappy about the Koreshans' political stance. Some
Not
Democrats...
science.
Correct. They did not do science well. The Democrats and the Koreshans were fighting. Cyrus got in the middle of it. In breaking up the fight, he sustained a few injuries that were more severe than he initially thought, specifically to his head. For months, he felt that his vision randomly would get blurry, and he had constant headaches. 2 years later, on December 22nd, 1908, Cyrus Teed succumbed to those injuries and died.
Oh, no.
He was in his 80s. The Koreshan Unity was in disbelief for weeks and actually expected him to be resurrected.
Oh,
They
God.
placed him in a tin bath on the stage in their art hall and just waited for him to come back to life and be reborn.
No.
They waited weeks, thinking he was just being stubborn in the in-between state, and he would come out of it. Eventually, the health inspector had to take the body away because it was decomposing in front of everyone. They decided on putting him in a mausoleum near the beach with someone there keeping an eye on him at all times so he would be greeted when he finally woke up. So they had like a 24-hour watchman on the mausoleum.
Interesting.
But sadly, with him not returning, people started to fall out of belief. Especially after Victoria, who was Cyrus's right-hand woman and an assigned equal of his, she decided to move away and get married.
Oh, what?
She was in the top tier. You can't get married in the top tier.
Okay, so she's like, well, he's dead. I'm gonna go do my own thing.
Yeah. One follower actually visited her at her new home and said that he was pretty sure she's secretly a Catholic now. So she was like, fuck this hollow earth. On top of that, after his
Slight
death...
upgrade, but not really.
Yeah. On top of that, after his death, things about Cyrus started to become a little more clear. Like about how he was clearly a narcissist, full of himself, a liar who refused to see when he was wrong, even though it was brought to his attention often, and also a plagiarist who stole the writings of his good friend and published them in his own name.
No!
Yeah, that was
Don't do that.
Ulysses Grant Morrow. Ulysses Grant Morrow was the flat earther who he converted to hollow earth belief. And in converting him to hollow earth belief, Ulysses started researching and doing projects about the concave structure of the earth and wrote a book about it. And then Cyrus Teed stole it and published it in his own name.
Rude.
What an asshole.
I'm gonna go on record to say that I love the name Ulysses, though. Get it?
There were a few people who stuck with their beliefs in the Koreshan Unity until their deaths, but they didn't procreate, so it didn't live on.
Okay.
And the last of their hopes in his return were abandoned when Cyrus Teed's mausoleum containing his body was washed out to sea with a hurricane in 1921.
Oh my god.
So whatever God or universe actually exists just wanted to prove to everybody, this man is not fucking coming back. I'm taking him, okay? Quit thinking about him. The earth is not hollow.
He's not here
Forget
anymore.
about it. He's gone. The land of the New Jerusalem was sold off a little at a time while the people who lived there needed the money during the Great Depression and things like that, until the last two members on the land wrote the deed over to the state in 1962. The land is now known as the Koreshan State Park, or the
Okay.
Koreshan State Historic Site. They have hikes, tours, ghost walks, boating, canoeing, and camping happening at the state park.
Okay.
And that is my story about a not so fun, but also not so scary cult.
Okay. Now
The
I understand
Koreshan
what you
Unity.
meant by not a happy cult, but not a sad cult.
Oh, yeah. It's just a very interesting piece of history.
I like it. That was great.
Yeah. It's not very criminal, but
No.
also it feels criminal to believe the world is hollow.
I agree. I think I can say firm stance on the world is not hollow.
Yeah,
There's a lot happening in there.
definitely.
Let us know your beliefs on the world. It might be different, it might be better, it might be not this. Always curious. I don't know. I have yet to believe that we've heard all of the theories of what the fuck is happening on the earth, so.
I feel like if you don't know that the earth is an oddly shaped globe that's a little deformed in certain places, and it rotates around the sun in a solar system with 8 other planets, then maybe you shouldn't be listening to this podcast. You seem not old enough.
Yeah.
Because you should know that by now.
and do some research.
You need to go back to school.
That too. But yeah, great episode. I like it. If you have alternate theories on what the earth is doing, let us know. It's definitely not hollow and it's definitely not flat, but we want to know your opinion.
I guess so.
We love you guys lots. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Mm-hmm.
And Sierra, what day is it today?
Today is November 22nd, and on this day, we... How do I want to put this? Mourn, but also think back to and question the fateful events of 11/22/63, when President John F. Kennedy was assassinated. By who? No one fucking knows, but they'll tell you who.
Sierra's gonna have some theories at some point.
They'll
here,
tell you
guys.
it was Lee Harvey Oswald, but we don't know.
Mm-hmm. That's
So,
agreed upon here so
yeah.
far. We don't know for sure.
we don't. Have a happy Thanksgiving if you celebrate that.
Yes. American Thanksgiving.
Eat some food. Maybe
Eat all of the food. Okay? Just do it.
yeah. But also, like, you don't have to celebrate it if you don't want to.
No,
It's kind
you
of a
can just
shitty
eat-
holiday,
You
okay?
can just eat all the food.
Yeah. Think happy thoughts for some Native Americans and their
Yes.
ancestors because they're
Yes.
mourning this week.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening. We will be back next week with 2 special topic episodes. Back to back, not like 2 episodes in one. We love you, but we're not that organized. And if you have any suggestions for that episode, send it in. We might use it for another episode. And we'll see you next week. And in the meantime,
Keep it twisted.
twisted. I did not say words, but I will put them in there. Keep it twisted!
Oh my gosh.
Keep it twisted. Thank you for listening to Twisted and Uncorked Podcast. Remember to leave a 5-star rating and review wherever you are listening now. It really is the best way to spread the word. You can also check out all of our sources and materials, as well as photos for the episode, on our website at twistedanduncorked.com. And you can follow us on social media at Twisted and Uncorked or Twisted_pod on Twitter. Thank you so much for all of your love and support, and we will see you next Tuesday for a brand new episode. Cheers!